Hello, welcome to John's Author Diary for the weekend in October the 14th, 2018. This week I finished the first draft of The Emperor, which is a fifth novella in my Ravenglass Chronicles series, and I'm about a third of the way through the second draft of that, so that's gone really well. The third book, which is called The High Priestess, is coming out on Monday, so I managed to bring the pre-order date forward because I got everything proofread and formatted on Thursday, so that will come out tomorrow. I spoke to Russ this week about the Stop Booking Around podcast, and I think we're going to put it on a bit of a hiatus. He's basically got some family issues at the moment, and any free time he has for the foreseeable future is going to be spent caring for a family member, so I feel really bad for Russ about that. So I do have one more episode in the bag. This is an interview with Paul Teague. This is where we're talking about time management for authors. So what I'm going to do is have a bit of a regroup as regards the podcast, because at the core of the show it is about helping my friend through the journey of writing his first book. And so I'm not sure as to whether to take the show in a different direction, maybe talk about the similar subjects that have been with Russ, about the craft of writing and storytelling, and bring in some other people, or whether just to put it on hold for a while. And so that's still up in the air, because I'm not really sure as to where to go. There's part of me leaning more towards waiting for Russ, or just knocking the podcast on the head if he isn't able to come back and do the show. Because the thing about podcasting is they do actually take quite a lot of time to produce and edit and upload. And I think it's something like for every minute that you do on a podcast, that takes 5 minutes work. But I will still be doing the Otaku on Writing podcast with Killian and Lynn. We're just putting together our fifth short story collection based on this show. So we've got 3 short stories which are inspired by Street Fighter 2, the animated movie. And so we've all ended up producing stories that are set on a generation ship. So this is a ship that will take humanity between the stars for several generations. And so we've each written a story about a fighting tournament on a generation ship. And so I've really enjoyed writing that story. It's nice to keep the sci-fi stuff ticking along. I think writing a story every 3 weeks is really keeping me sharp and focused and letting me experiment with different forms of telling stories. So I finished reading The Red Wolf Conspiracy by Robert V.S. Reddick. For what I wanted, which was basically nautical fantasy, it worked really well. It was set on a ship and had a lot of the details and descriptions that I was looking for. But the story itself wasn't fantastic. It wasn't bad, but there are much better stories out there. So I've started reading Master and Commander because I will probably start writing The Hierophant, which is the book that will be set on a boat after the October half term. And so basically I've got next week left to finish The Emperor to try and get the second draft complete. Then you've got the October half term, which means I'm having a week off. And then I'll start writing The Hierophant, which will be the release for January in the Ravenglass Chronicles series. Now, a few people have asked me whether I'm going to be doing NaNoWriMo this year, which is the National Novel Writing Month. And at first I was quite resistant to the idea. It worked for me really well when I wrote Wizard of the Wasteland. That is a NaNoWriMo novel. And then I tried doing it last year and it didn't work for me. I don't know why, but I felt like I'd got into quite a nice groove with what I was doing, and giving myself this different kind of pressure was actually counterproductive. And so there's part of me thinking, right, I should just carry on writing the Ravenglass Chronicles, work on the Hierophant, get that done, maybe get 3 of these novellas done before Christmas. But then there is another part of me thinking I could spend this time finishing Cleric of the Wasteland, getting that first draft done, because it's one of those things that's hanging over me. I know I need to write it. I've got the cover. There are too many questions that I've left open in the series. And so it's one of those things that just needs to get done and dusted. So I'm still not sure what I'm going to do. I think I might just take it week by week in November and just see how it goes. I feel like the way I've been working on these novellas, which has essentially been doing these kind of quick self-contained stories and then building them up with the editing, has been a really good way for me to work. It's really productive. I'm getting these novellas written in 3 to 4 weeks. So my word count is actually higher than when I was working on something like Blind Gambit, for example, which was a really hard book to write. So if you've got any questions, please do email me. It's john@johncronshaw.com. That's JONCRONSHAW. You can also tweet me at JLCronshaw. Next Friday, I should be doing a reading at Spotlight in Lancaster. So I'm going to do a spot where I read one of my short stories. So I still don't know what I'm going to read yet, but it will be fun nonetheless. If you happen to be in the Lancaster area, come down. It's at Story. It's from 7:30. And there's usually a really good night of poetry, fiction, music, performance. It's usually a really good mix of people. So do come down if you happen to be in the area. So until next time, cheerio.